The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in the basement storage area of Davidson Retail Headquarters, as Jonathan Davidson made his way through the maze of inventory boxes, clipboard in hand. At 38, he had built his company from a single store into a nationwide chain. But recent reports of employee dissatisfaction had prompted him to go undercover as a facilities inspector to see what was really happening beneath the corporate veneer. He had been conducting these surprise visits for 2 weeks, posing as a contractor evaluating building systems. What he had discovered troubled him. Outdated break rooms, inadequate lighting, and working conditions that fell far short of the standards he thought his company maintained. As Jonathan descended into the building's lower level to check the mechanical systems, he heard the soft sound of a baby crying echoing through the concrete corridors. Following the sound, he discovered something that would fundamentally change how he understood the human cost of his business decisions. Sitting on a thin blanket spread across the basement floor was a young woman he recognized as Sarah Chen, one of the cashiers from the employee store. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the standard company uniform over what appeared to be a nursing-friendly shirt. In her arms, she cradled an infant who could not have been more than 2 months old. Jonathan stood frozen in the doorway, taking in the scene before him. Around Sarah were scattered the contents of what appeared to be her lunch: an unopened sandwich, a bottle of water, and a small jar of baby food. It was clear that she had given up her mealtime to care for her child in this cold, unwelcoming space. "Excuse me," Jonathan said gently, stepping forward. "Is everything all right?" Sarah looked up with a mixture of surprise and fear, immediately moving to gather her belongings. "I am so sorry. I know employees are not supposed to have family members in the building. I can explain." "Please do not apologize," Jonathan said, approaching carefully and sitting on a nearby crate so he would be at her eye level. "I am not here to get you in trouble. I am concerned about you and the baby." Sarah studied his face, seeing something there that made her shoulders relax slightly. "My babysitter called in sick this morning, and I could not afford to miss another day of work. I have already used all my personal days, and my supervisor made it clear that my job was at risk if I called out again." Jonathan felt something twist in his chest as he processed the desperation in her voice. "How long have you been bringing the baby to work?" "This is the first time," Sarah said quickly. "I know it was wrong, but I have nowhere else to go. My mother lives 3 states away, and I do not have anyone else who can help." Jonathan looked at the infant sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms despite the harsh industrial surroundings. "What is your baby's name?" "Emma," Sarah replied, her voice softening as she looked down at her daughter. "She is 8 weeks old. I came back to work as soon as my maternity leave ended because I need this job." "Maternity leave?" Jonathan asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Unpaid leave," Sarah clarified. "The company policy is 6 weeks unpaid for part-time employees. I used up all my savings during that time, and now I am behind on rent and utilities." Jonathan felt heat rise in his face as he realized the implications of what she was telling him. His company employed hundreds of part-time workers, mostly young mothers and students, who received no paid benefits despite working essential roles in the business. "Sarah, when was the last time you had a real meal?" he asked, noticing her untouched lunch. "Yesterday evening," she admitted reluctantly. "But Emma needed formula, and I had to choose between groceries for me or feeding her. It was not really a choice." The words hit Jonathan like a physical blow. Here was a woman working for his company, skipping meals to afford baby formula, bringing her infant to work because she could not afford child care, and doing it all in a basement because she was afraid of losing her job. "Sarah, may I ask what your position is here exactly?" "I work the register in the employee store and I help with inventory when we get busy." It is only 28 hours a week, so I do not qualify for benefits, but it was the best I could find that would work around Emma's schedule. Jonathan nodded, filing away every detail. And you do not have family support? Emma's father decided. He was not ready to be a parent, Sarah said matter-of-factly. He moved out when I was 6 months pregnant. It is just the two of us now. Jonathan looked at this young mother, feeding her baby in a concrete basement because she had no other options, and felt his entire perspective on business success shift. All the profit reports and efficiency metrics in the world meant nothing if his employees were struggling to meet their basic needs. Sarah, I need to step away for a few minutes, Jonathan said, standing. But I want you to stay right here, finish feeding Emma, and eat your lunch. Can you promise me that? 20 minutes. Later, Jonathan returned with Jennifer Walsh, the head of human resources, and David Kim, the facilities manager. Sarah was exactly where he had left her, now eating her sandwich while Emma slept in her arms. Sarah, Jonathan said, settling back down beside her, I need to be honest with you about something. I am not actually a facilities inspector. I am Jonathan Davidson, the CEO of this company. Sarah's face went pale, and she instinctively held Emma closer. Mr. Davidson, please do not fire me. I promise this will never happen again. Sarah, you are not in trouble, Jonathan said firmly. In fact, you have helped me understand some serious problems with how this company treats its employees. He turned to Jennifer and David. Effective immediately, we are implementing several changes. First, all employees working more than 20 hours per week will receive full benefits, including paid maternity leave. Second, we are establishing an on-site childcare facility. Third, we are creating an emergency assistance fund for employees facing financial hardship. Jennifer began taking notes. Mr. Davidson, these changes will require significant budget adjustments. Then we will find the money, Jonathan replied without hesitation. We can start by reducing executive compensation if necessary. No employee of this company should have to choose between feeding themselves and feeding their children. He turned back to Sarah. Sarah, as of today, you are being promoted to full-time status with complete benefits. I would also like you to consider helping us design the new childcare facility, since you understand better than anyone what working parents need. Mr. Davidson, I do not understand why you are doing this, Sarah said softly. Jonathan looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms, and thought about all the other employees who might be struggling in ways he had never considered. Because I just learned that a company's success should be measured not by how much profit it generates, but by how well it cares for the people who make that success possible. You taught me that today. 6 months later, Davidson Retail's innovative employee support programs were featured in business magazines nationwide. The company's new child care center served as a model for other corporations, and employee satisfaction had reached record highs. But Jonathan's most treasured feedback came from a photo Sarah sent him of Emma taking her first steps in the company child care center, with a note that read, "Thank you for seeing us as people worth caring about." Sometimes the most important business lessons come not from boardrooms or profit reports, but from basement floors where dedicated employees demonstrate the kind of sacrifice and determination that makes true success possible.